I saw Tufik and yourself really care for the client, really take the journey on with the client. So just having that personal element, I think just sort of came across.
Like accounting can start as just a side hustle, or it can be like a one-man band type operation. And if you're doing it with a partner, it could be effectively running an.
The more value you add, the more money you will make, full stop. If you want to learn how to make more money, add more value.
Welcome to another episode of the Lat Chat. I'm John Sardi, co-founder at Latitude Accountants and your co-host of the Lat Chat podcast. Here at Latitude Accountants, we believe that the small business owner is the hero of our community. And we are lucky enough to interact with hundreds of small business owners every single day. In this podcast, we will be chatting with small business heroes from Australia and talking all things business, money and tax. Our next guest is someone you should know already, but I reckon he's someone you should get to know even more. I gained inspiration from him in the world of business due to his notable achievements. He was the founder of the very successful startup, Advisory Corp Accountants. As well, he was personally recognized as the best accountant under 30 in the year 2020. He's the co-host of the best, in my opinion, up-and-coming podcast, The Lat Chat. And most importantly, he's now a client director at Latitude Accountants, the best accounting firm in Sydney. I'd like to introduce to you Jacob Fahmy, CA. How you going, mate?
I'm very good. Thanks for dropping the CA in there. If you didn't, people wouldn't know who I am. Yeah, accountant, Jacob, what? It's sort of
you work hard to earn the title. You should drop it in, you know what I mean? Let me start by saying, well, how the turntables?
Oh my goodness. So the last time that we interviewed, our first podcast, I interviewed you. And bro, I gave you 2 weeks of prep. We were back and forth with some notes, this and that. Right? You've caught me off guard. And this morning, you've just decided, you know what? My special guest that you've been banking all week is going to be Jacob, none other than myself. So I'm looking forward to it.
Listen, I like to get the raw, reactions to the questions. We don't want to do any of this scripted nonsense like those other podcasts. You know what I mean?
Considering this is the best this is the best podcast in Sydney, we'll do our best.
100% authentic. That's how you get here. You know what I mean? Yeah. No, mate. I appreciate you sitting in the hot seat. We did it with myself. We had a bit of fun, and I found myself on the other side thinking, mate, I wish I was able to drill Jacob a little bit. You know what I mean? He's fired some questions about my childhood, my history, my weight loss, and some personal things. Okay, when I get my chance, mate, I'm going to open up the closet, have a look at the skeletons. You know what I mean? Look, I want to get sort of into the backstory. Yep. So I grew up in similar circles to you. I always knew of you. You're a few years younger than me, but I knew you were there and around. So I've got an idea about your backstory, but I want you, in your own words, to sort of tell me what your upbringing was like, your childhood, the home dynamic, your family, living in the area, whatever area that was for you.
Yeah.
Tell me about your story and where you came from.
100%. So I came up similar to you and a lot of business owners we deal with, pretty humble beginnings. My parents are first generation Australians, came here to give me and my sister a better life. I grew up in the suburb of Plumpton, right next to Mount Druitt. That sort of
Mount Druitt.
That's it. So the latest documentary, what is it, 1-4 on Netflix? That's sort of the area. So that's to sort of paint a picture. Honestly, it wasn't that bad back then.
If I knew, I would have brought my bulletproof vest to this interview. I had no idea Mount Druitt.
That's too good. Right. So it actually wasn't as bad. At the time you're in it, and at the time, that's all you know. You just think, whatever, it's just another day. I lived pretty close to Plumpton High, where the documentary about teen pregnancies was. But, out of sight, out of mind. I didn't see the teen pregnancies. I was just walking to school, trying to do my best at school and trying to be the best I could be, which is something my parents taught me.
I growing up, when I heard of Mount Druitt, I grew up in Bankstown and it wasn't, a beautiful place, but, it wasn't the most,
best
prestigious place with a big reputation. So I understand. But the first thing I ever saw about Mount Druitt was a documentary called Struggle Street. Yeah. I think it was on SBS or something. Yeah. And they painted a pretty dire picture.
Yeah.
Was it that bad?
It is and it's not. I always struggle. There's a lot of rap and hip hop created around Mount Druitt, which I have the utmost respect for. It's part of the life. But How can we sit and say it's a dire suburb when the average house price is $1 million? Like, it's rough and it gives you a bit of character. But like you live in Australia, naturally anywhere you live in Australia is going to be okay. In comparison to the world, you're in the top 5% of the world. So it was rough, but we didn't know any different. So that's sort of where I grew up, coming up, and it actually flows into a story I often tell. In year 3, I did a maths test, and so I'm Egyptian. So growing up as an Egyptian, you really have a handful of options of career paths you can take. You're either a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, or an accountant, or something along that STEM sort of route.
They're all professionals. All the Egyptians I know.
Correct.
Very smart, intellectual professionals.
That's right.
Good with money.
That's what they say. So I've always wanted to become a doctor. That was just what I wanted to do. And then in year 3, my life changed. I did a maths test. And you pay $5, which was big money back then. You pay $5, you go to UNSW and you do a maths test and see how you score. I scored a HD. My parents thought, that's it. Next to Albert Einstein, this bloke, we're wrapped. We raised a good kid here, right? So year 3, I do maths. I figure I'm good at maths. And then in year 9, I do business studies. And that's sort of when I got the first. I don't come from a business family, but that's sort of when I got the first itch to the entrepreneurial side. We had a pretty rowdy school, not a rowdy school, but a rowdy class at the time, and so the teacher would just play reruns of The Apprentice all the time, and that's like, I thought that's what business was like, right? Like
the Trump version or the
Trump
version?
No, Trump. This is back the OG Trump times,
yeah.
Pre-Trump presidency,
course,
pre-Trump being what he is today. So anyway, and so I thought, you know what, if I combine a maths sort of brain with business, the love child of business and maths would be accounting, right?
Yeah.
So I decided to be an accountant. I do all the accounting things. I go through uni. I do my cadetship. I worked at Nexia, which is like a top 10 firm, and then sort of worked my way up there, and then left and found Latitude.
Before we get too far ahead on that,
yeah,
you said you HD in maths.
Yes.
All right. I've been an accountant for 20 years plus. Every single person who says to me, "Oh, you're an accountant, you must be good at maths."
Yeah.
How little maths is there in accounting?
Oh, very. In fact, Pat was saying this the other day. Your math skills decrease because you use Excel.
I know. So what is that? Like, there's just that association because there's numbers in maths. People are like, "Oh, you must be good at maths," and it's like, I've never used maths in accounting one time.
Yeah. I did. I made a conscious effort. I felt that, and I felt like if you start relying on Excel and calculators too much, you lose that math side. So I've purposely just avoided calculators, avoid Excel. I do it all up in here, and I think it makes you a little bit sharper.
So you're like an old school accountant.
I do my best.
Punching the numbers upstairs.
You know what Tufik inspired me? Tufik is very much, okay, well, this much turnover, this much gross profit, and just rattles off numbers. So I'm trying to be like that.
It's his tactical side. Tactically, it's like it's better to do than that, the easy multiplication you have, because if you don't have a calculator, what are you going to do?
This very true.
You know what I mean?
Very true.
All right, so you've painted the picture. You're in Mount Druitt. You've done well in a test. You like the business studies. Like, I don't want you to brush over the high school period.
Oh, sure.
All right, so I want you to tell me, in high school, who were you as a person? What did the teachers think of you? What did your peers think of you? How were you seen as everyone? What did your parents think of you? Academic, sports? What was the Jacob vibe?
Yeah, 100%. So at the home, anyway, my parents' number one concern was me academically. So it was always driving us. Can you believe it? It's completely uncharacteristic of an Egyptian household. But it was always, driven to do well and to perform. One of the best stories I have from that time is I was in year 9 biology, and I wanted to come first in the class, which is always sort of what you want to do. And so my dad asked me, we did a test, I came third. And to, most people third, that's pretty good. Like out of X amount of people, that's not bad.
27 people.
Do you know what I mean?
Day in the office.
It will take it to the bank. And so my dad said, third, why didn't you come first? And I'm like, I don't know. That's how I performed. And he said, who came first? And I said, this student in my class, and I can't remember her name, and I can't remember anything about him anyway. And he says, what do they eat? And I'm like, what do they eat? Probably like the same thing we eat, maybe rice, a meal, like I don't know. I haven't asked them really what they eat. And he says, what do they drink? And I'm like, I don't know, probably water. Like, they're alive, so water has a big part to do with that, right? And so he's like, okay, so if your mum cooks you rice and gives you water, do you reckon you can come first?
What
And
a smashing.
But it was phenomenal. There's a couple of conversations that changed my life. That was up there in that he was teaching me the lesson of you are just as capable as the person next to you. We came to this country to give you a better life. You have the resources to do it. You have a roof over your head and a meal to go to every day. So anything other than you giving 100% of your effort would be an underachievement of what you are set up to sort of do. So that's the mentality I had in high school.
It's like the immigrant work ethic that you hear about. Like you hear about it in the States, you hear about it here in Australia. Like if your parents came from somewhere else, there was some sacrifice there. All that's expected of you is to just give 100%.
100%.
And that should equate in results.
Yeah, correct. So anyway, who was I in high school? That was part of, so I was always trying to do my best academically. I was in the popular group. I was a leader in school. I try to be as much of a leader as I can in everything I do. I was the house captain. The reason I went for school captain, but the teachers vote on who's going to be school captain. The students vote on who is going to be house captain. So house captain was a shoe-in.
Popularity contest.
Essentially. And then, but school captain, I was, like I said, academically driven, but my social side, we were very, we're a conservative family. So school to me sounds weird saying it, but was very social as well. It's where I got a lot of my social outlet put in. And so I was in all the groups and friendly with everyone. I had a good cross section of, if you were in the footy team, I was your footy mate because I was playing 5'8" or fullback in the football team. If you were studying hard in maths class, so was I, because I had to show my report cards to my parents when I got home. So I studied a lot. Anywhere in my grade, I would sort of slot into. And so I love school. I had a great experience. But I always knew I wanted to do something with myself, and that's sort of who I was at school, I guess. Yeah.
And when was that exact moment where you found out, or you knew you wanted to be an accountant? Yeah.
So it was that cross section of what you'll maybe get across in this is that there are moments in my life where I'm like, okay, I have to, like, that's something that is profound that changes me a little bit. So year 3, do the maths test. Year 9, business and maths. Love child's an accountant. And I remember going to, in year 10 or year 11, I did French studies. The only reason I did French studies was you had to do either French or German, but I preferred French cuisine to German cuisine. So we did this trip to the Little Snail, which is a restaurant in Ultimo, and when you drive past Ultimo, you see the UTS tower. And at the time, like I said, I've always, as you think you are, you're no less capable than anyone else. Go and make something of yourself. That's what's ringing in my mind. I had a year 9 maths teacher who instilled that in me as well. I see the UTS tower, and I say, I'm going to go to that uni and I'm going to study accounting. I'll never forget it. I turned to the guy next to me, who's one of my schoolmates, and I said, bro, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to that uni and I'm going to be an accountant. Yeah. So I wrote down, I'm very big on, visualizing, putting the goals around and really making dreams become a reality. So I wrote down the mark I wanted to get, stuck it on my desk at home, worked hard, and decided to be an accountant. And so that's exactly what I did. I got the exact mark, or a couple of points off what I wrote, and I ended up going to UTS studying accounting.
Amazing. So you finished school, I imagine similar sort of scenario to me. Have you then looked into potentially getting into cadetships, or what's the transition from high school, I want to be an accountant, I've got good marks in school, I've gone into uni, then breaking into an accounting career? What's that look like for you?
For sure. So I did similar to you, a cadetship a little bit later. So my first couple of years at uni was just my first year full-time uni. I was just doing uni and working part-time. I worked at Donut King for 6 years, making barista-made coffee. Yeah, it was my barista era.
One of my favourite places to eat back then. What a coincidence.
It was. That's shocking. So anyway, I funded myself sort of through the first year of uni, and then in my second year of uni, the first half, I did an exchange trip to the US, and so that was another amazing time in my life. Learned a lot, grew a lot, and then on my way back from the exchange trip, I'm like, crap, I've no money. I need to start looking at a, career option for myself, and I'm studying, but I want to get some practical experience. So I had a mate who was working at Nexia at the time, and I you know what, actually, as I was in my first year of uni, I applied for a job at Nexia. I did the cadetship interview, but I said, I just don't know if it's what I want to do yet. Let's pursue uni and see how it goes. So I ended up circling back to that and saying, I'm back from America on this day. Would love to get an interview. Got the interview, and they were doing the cadetship rounds, and so I ended up getting a job there and learning the ropes at Nexia. My first 3 months at Nexia was they were moving from Australia Square to Market Street, which is where they are now. I had a great experience. I love Nexia. I love the firm and the people there. So in my first 3 months, I got there and they were paperless already. But one of their big jobs was we needed to scan every document that we had in the office so that when we moved, nothing came with us, right?
Don't tell me you're stuck with the scanning job.
Bro, you have no idea.
That's horrific.
Yeah, 3 months, 4 months straight, bro. All I did...
That's RSI. That's
right. It was just scan upon scan upon scan. That's sounds
like Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off. That's every accounting firm actually. When you start, especially in those days, say up to until things went paperless, 5-10 years ago, it was you come in for one whole year. You basically have to serve by opening mail, scanning mail, writing letters, answering phone calls, and the most dreaded thing, sitting on the phone to the ATO. For hours on end. Phone call after phone call, just sitting on that. And then the music would ring out in the office. Yeah. And then even when I started, though, we had the added benefit of running to the post office or to ASIC or to the ATO to either pay a tax bill or pay something for the client or do things physically. Like everything's electronic now. But yeah, that was like a rite of passage.
It was, and so I did all my scanning, and like the stories of like we would have, how you have those office birthday parties, and sort of everyone gets around and they say a few words.
Yeah, the cake cart.
Yeah. And but I was new to the corporate world. I'd never been. I'm a kid from bloody Plumpton, trying to make myself into a suit wearing, corporate. Yeah, and so I was scanning, and they had this cake presentation. I didn't know whether that was my cue to join the cake presentation or just to keep scanning. So I chose to keep scanning because in my mind it's like just keep working.
Yeah.
And so I chose to keep scanning, but it was next to the scanning room, and bro, the noise this scanner would make was preposterous. I'm scanning documents older than me, different sizes. This bloke, the managing partner's there trying to do the speech.
Like this is happy birthday.
That's literally what it was.
The background. This obnoxious kid from Mount Druitt scanning while we're singing.
That's it.
Singing happy birthday to everyone. So
that was good times.
Amazing.
Came through the ranks there. Yeah. I left there at sort of like an intermediate senior level. And then so that, but like I said, working at a mid-tier firm was pretty cool. And then but it came to a point where I sort of started thinking about, who are my clients? What do they do? If one day I wanted to become a partner here, or if I wanted to start, I never really thought about starting my own thing, but if I wanted to be a fully fledged accountant one day, who were my clients going to be? And there was a bit of a mismatch between the mid-tiers. There was a lot of like high net worth work, a lot of back office stuff, and a lot of just businesses with wealth that sort of was just moving around. No real like startup businesses and up and coming businesses. So I left. That's effectively why I left Nexia. Got on the phone with one two-figure dad, who said, "I said, bro,
take me through that that phone call." So take me through that experience of leaving Nexia.
Yeah.
And that was the first real accounting job you'd had.
Yeah.
And then you're pivoting somewhere else. You're looking outside for answers.
Yeah.
What were you? On the inside, what were you feeling at that time? Where was your headspace? What was the mindset like?
Yeah,
and then you went through like a resignation process. Take me through that. I want to feel the feelings.
Yeah. The realization came when, like I said, I just looked at the client base and I looked at the work I was doing, and the reason I got into accounting at the start was small business and to help the small business owner and to deal with people like myself. So that was playing on my mind. Then there was honestly thoughts of, and I don't know if. I have a feeling that every accountant goes through this, but I genuinely thought, like, is this the right career path for myself? I don't fit the mold of a typical accountant. Like I always say, we could have done, many things with the skill set we were handed and that we worked on. Accounting is just an outlet of who I am as a person and what I embody. So I thought about, would I be better suited to a BDM role? Would I be better suited to maybe teaching? I love teaching, so maybe teaching people how to use different accounting softwares or something like that. Is that my true calling? And then I get on the phone to Tufik Haddad, okay? And so...
genius himself, Tufik Haddad.
Yeah, and by the way, I'll step back one more time. The reason I stayed at Nexia for so long was the culture was amazing. I loved the people there. I loved working there. I couldn't say a bad thing about them. And so just having good culture, I swear, keeps your staff in there for so much longer. Yeah. And the work was difficult and dry and whatever, but I liked working there, so I stayed, right? Anyway, then Tufik Haddad gets on the phone, the mad genius, as we call him, okay? And he says, I say, Tufik, I'm thinking about leaving. I don't know whether I want to even do accounting. And Tufik gets on the phone and says, bro, what are you talking about? Don't worry. I'll talk to John. We'll figure it out. Just come in on Monday. And I say, that's not really how it works. I have a resignation period. I see him at boys meeting later that week, a Bible study. And he goes, don't worry, bro. I've talked to John. I'll talk to John. We'll get it sorted. Just whatever. So I put in my resignation letter, and he goes, yeah, bro, come in Monday and we'll talk. He goes, by the way, have you ever used Xero? And at the time, I had maybe like one or two interactions.
Xero was new or newish.
Very new.
Now it's taken over. Everyone uses Xero.
Exactly.
If you're not using Xero, you're behind.
Yeah. This was the my old days. The my old
day one. Yeah.
Correct. So anyway, he goes, have you used Xero? I go, no, like I've used it once, man, maybe. And he goes, all right. No worries. He goes, all right, listen, on Monday you're coming in, you're teaching this cafe owner how to use Xero. Bro, like...
just straight in the deep end.
Straight in the deep end.
He didn't care that you said one time.
No,
He's that information's useless to me, but on Monday... The tactic is you have to come in and teach someone how to use Xero, even though you've used it one time.
That's it. The client needs to know how to use Xero. You will learn Xero. You will teach
That's like hashtag the Latitude way.
Yeah. I swear. Anyway, so I come in on the Monday, and sure enough, I meet the client, and I wing my way through my first Xero training. So I'm learning and teaching Xero in the training. Yeah. But it was good. Like it's self-explanatory. Like that's the best thing about Xero is that it's just a great small business software, user-friendly. Anyway, so I teach her how to use Xero. What Tufik didn't tell me was that later on, she's like, okay, now we're done the Xero training. Let's do my budget. And I'm like, budget? What budget? This bloke didn't tell me about the budget. So there was another hour in the meeting that I have to now create a budget for her. I don't know anything about this
Budgets,
other than she owns a cafe. I have not only about her or the budget, whatever.
He could have just said to you, but you did like well in that maths test. Yeah. You love business studies. Of course, you know how to do a budget. So that's all it is, right?
You know what I mean? I should have known. So anyway, I end up doing the budget in the meeting. I just naturally thought, okay, well, what are my expenses? Great, I've got my expenses down. What is my income? Great, what are my margins? And then it all sort of fell into place, luckily, and the client's very happy. I actually still have contact with that client today. This was well over 7-8 years ago. So
yeah, well, you know that's like I can see that now from your side of things.
Yeah.
So from my side of things, that was the way the early days. That's the way we rocked that Latitude. There was very like we pivot really quick. We make decisions on a whim. Yeah. It's like everything has to be done now. So I get a phone call from Tufik.
Yeah.
Like late. I think one Thursday night or maybe Sunday night. Like it's late at night and it's unusual. So I tend to remember those phone calls because like mostly he limits most phone calls to business hours. But when we actually get to the point where it's after hours or a weekend, the phone call from Tufik Haddad is accompanied with like a level of anxiety and like
Tufik anxious.
Yeah, there's like anxiety and there's urgency. Like urgency. Something couldn't wait till Monday morning. Yeah. And he goes, "There's a really good opportunity. There's a kid. You know who he is. Do you know who he is?" Oh, no, sorry. It's Tufik Haddad. So he doesn't give me the context. He just goes, "Listen, we got to hire this really good kid. You know, Jacob. He's at Nexia. He's thinking of changing and he's available now. We won't get someone this good. If we went through a recruitment process and like he basically goes on the hard sell for Jacob Fahmy. Yeah. And I know, like, I don't listen to the words he says. I feel the tone of what he's saying. And I know by the degree of, like, urgency and like how fast he's talking, how serious he is about a proposition. And like I just said, yeah, of course. Like if we can make this work, it's good for the firm. Yeah, let's make it happen. And then Monday morning, you're in the office.
There you go.
And that was the shortest recruitment process that we ever did at Latitude Accountants.
I basically got bullied into starting.
I didn't do the normal things I'd like to do, like check your screen time.
Yeah.
And, things like that.
All the hard-hitting interview questions.
It was just straight in the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we had that history, and we knew what, like, and if you're coming from a place like in the mid-tier, they've got a rigorous, process. So the tactic is they've done their due diligence. Yeah. We can really limit ours. And then you came into the firm, and it was the first time where we felt like we're starting to build up a little bit of momentum, because until then it was like accounting can start as just a side hustle, or it can be like a one-man band type operation. And if you're doing it with a partner, it could be effectively running, and it might have been in the early days, there's like two people running their own little businesses and sharing overheads. Sure. That's often a thing. But at some point there's a transition where you go from, one-man bands or cost sharing, or two individual practitioners just doing their thing until we go, okay, this is a business, this is a brand, and then we transition further. Jacob Fahmy was definitely part of that evolution in those earlier days. But, as with every hero's journey, there's always peaks and troughs and turnings and things that always go, in a linear fashion. What happened then for you to decide that Latitude was not where you needed to be at that time? Yeah. And then you went out to pursue a different path. Tell us about.
An excellent question. So at the time, when I started with Latitude Accountants, it was in Parramatta. Great, close to home, great scene. We had heaps of small business clients in that local area. And it was a lot of fun to work with. And it was just the culture shock coming from a mid-tier firm to this young up-and-coming startup scratchy, just trying to get clients in, figure it out, get the best service out we can, really work for our clients and establish a brand. So that was really cool. Loved all that. And then yourself and Tufik acquired a firm in Marrickville, which is an hour and a half from where I lived at the time, with there was no West Connects and this and that. And so acquired a firm in Marrickville, stuck around for another maybe couple of years. And then
it was before the work from home days, pre-COVID.
Oh man, well before the work from home days. And so I was here for maybe three to 4 years in the first stint, and it got to a point where I had a couple of car accidents getting to work. I was so frustrated about the travel; it was a big turn off. And then I got my tax agent number, and so I always just thought, whatever, I'll work, and I loved working, and I'm always going to put my best effort into my work, but I'll also get my tax agent number, and I'll do family and friend tax returns, and off we go. And then I talked to Tufik about it, and because I wanted to be transparent, and said, by the way, Tufik, I've got my tax agent number, do you mind if I do family and friends tax returns? And he said, no. He goes, that's stupid, why would you do that? And I said, I'm trying to build up my own profile as well. He didn't love it.
You can always trust him to tell you what he's thinking.
Yeah.
Tell you the truth.
Very honest, and like it's always pretty transparent around here, pretty honest. So, there was that, and then, so I just thought, maybe it's time for me to spread my wings. I also, one thing I think we do well, but is I saw firsthand what it took. Like there was no curtains on the operations of the business, and we see everything. And so, I thought, these are two young guys that I sort of know. I can see their trajectory. I could have a crack at this. It was inspiring enough that I thought I could see how I go with this. So I did. I didn't want to die wondering. So I left and started Advisory Corp Accountants.
Yes.
And so that was a good story. I had a job in between as I was just sort of building up my my client ledger and things. But really, I had the eyes on building up Advisory Corp. I was on my honeymoon. I had resigned. I was on my honeymoon, and then I was looking in the waters of Positano, and thought, you know what, if I'm not going to do it now, I'm never going to do it. I don't know if it was the Italian mood in the air or what it was. Maybe it was
it's like the Oracle.
That was it.
You went to the waters of Positano.
That was it. And so my wife just said, yeah, why not have a crack? She comes from a business family, and she gave me the support and sacrificed a lot for me to do it. And I did.
Well, what I'm interested in, and this is the part that I think would resonate, is how old are you this stage?
31.
So you're 31. Sounds like you're recently married.
At that time I'm 26.
Yeah, okay,
I'm 31 now.
31 now. So you're 26. You're recently married. You got your ticket, your tax agent license, your CA, but you go out and you basically start an accounting firm from scratch.
Yeah.
Okay, and you got all this added pressure now. You're a family man. And we know in our community, like, there's an expectation on the man to be a provider and be successful and do well and have everything together.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about what that pressure was like and how you coped with it? And how did you wear all the hats and do all the things like sales and producing and marketing and what was it like in that time where it was just you and only you?
100%. So I'll give you some context. So mid-19 is when I got married, June 2019. And so
19, that's familiar, rings the bell.
Yeah. and so I'm out there. My wife has a full-time job, which was amazing because that helped, somewhat
stability of
support.
income.
It gave us stability. We didn't have any stupid mortgages and things.
Did you have any non-stupid mortgages?
I didn't. I'm Egyptian, brother. So I had no credit card debt. We were always like good with our money.
So you got your position to a point where the pressure wasn't as high as it could be.
Correct. I didn't have no dependent family members and things like that. So so I'm in that spot. I start Advisory Corp. I've started posting social media pretty instantly literally on my honeymoon on trains between Italy. I was posting social media content, trying to get my first few clients. And then I attend a couple of webinars, do a bit of research. I've never started a business. I don't know what the hell to do. Do I just do accounting work? Do I try to get clients? I don't know what to do. So you just sort of figure it out. You're in a position where it's do or die. You have to figure it out. I have to go somewhere with myself. And I just had to make it happen. So my earliest memories are I went hard on social media. I went hard on getting the word out. I was networking every single night. I missed nothing in terms of putting myself out there and making sure I could attract the clients that I wanted to work with in business. Then my product model was very much, I knew what Latitude was doing. And I think one of our biggest competitive advantages at the time was our service offering was actually great. And the early days of Xero and this and that, and not too many accounting firms working with Xero. As soon as you put Xero in front of a client and
how good is Xero, by the way?
Amazing.
Shout out to Xero for the collab. Certified Platinum Advisors. Come and see us about our next sponsor our podcast or something.
Yeah, that'd be nice. So it just made business simple. And so just that idea of talking to a client, caring about the client was massive. A lot of it, look, I saw Tufik and yourself really care for the client, really take the journey on with the client. So just having that personal element, I think just sort of came across to the clients initially in that early stage. I was CA qualified. I had all the technical expertise, and I knew I had resources around me that would help me. And honestly, that first year, so June 19 and then March 2020, COVID, okay? Mm-hmm. And so that was a pivotal point in my business journey, in that accounting firms are not designed to deal with JobKeeper, cash flow boost, every stimulus package being live on the media on Monday, and then on Tuesday your client calling you and saying, hey, by the way, my business has dipped 30% and I have to shut it down, and what's the stimulus? So I capitalized on that a lot, where I was online.
From my perspective, so COVID's hitting. So you've been out of our firm for not much more than a year and a half or whatever. Yeah. COVID's hitting and everyone's trapped at home, and then everyone's on their phones looking at Instagram, TikTok starting and all that. And I think I was in my phase where I'm like having a look, and then I start seeing your face pop up. Yeah. I'm like, what's this? Is this Jacob's dancing on Instagram and doing videos talking about JobKeeper? Yeah. He's doing all this, he's posting stories and he's laughing and his clothes are changing like a very quick transition. Yeah. And I went through the emotions of, is this like the assessment really? It's like,
Yeah.
what is he doing? Is this working? And then like, I was really curious, but it's interesting to hear like what that's like for you on the other side and the motivation.
100%. So I know, like, I'm someone that thinks about. I'd like to say I'm highly empathetic. It's one of my best strengths. It's also one of my biggest weaknesses. In that I know I can sort of feel what my client is going through, my target market's going through, and I'm thinking I'm spending time on social media. I'm spending time behind screens. Where are my clients looking when they're looking for advice, or what's going through their mind? And I just thought, you know what, let's have a crack. A lot of accounting firms are reeling. I know everyone's online. I know they're looking on Instagram and whatnot. And this was untraditional at the time. And I knew one of my biggest competitive advantages was there's no way a mid-tier firm is jumping on Instagram, educating their market around JobKeeper. They're probably sending a corporate email that the client might delete. So I got in there first. I had no resources to put behind the business. So it was very much sweat equity, getting in, putting, adding value, listening to Gary Vee talk about jab, right hook, and listening to a ton of business books. I didn't come from a business family. I didn't have business mentors, so I read a lot and just added as much value as I could, and naturally just grew off the back of that, which was really exciting.
How important was social media to your business?
Pivotal.
At the time, and what sort of clients were you picking up and interacting with?
Yeah, for sure. So social media was critical because, like I said, when I first started, I was out shaking hands physically every single night, literally every single night in the city. Still have clients who I met from that experience. And so
this is like networking events, like BNI type
all
stuff.
BNI, but all the meetup. There's a thing called
Commerce,
Meetup. All that sort of stuff. Any business group I could find, I wanted to either get in there, shake hands, or present.
Okay, and you're newly married at the time?
Newly married.
So your wife didn't see you?
Oh, I didn't see.
So she deserves the awards. You got the award, but she deserves the award.
The amount of sacrifice my wife has made for this business and my career to take its shape is ridiculous. So, so it's crucial because I can't shake those hands anymore. Physical's gone, only online. So I'm doing a lot of the organic content. I don't have money for the paid ads. And so I did some paid ads, but not just a ton of social, ton of organic, and clients responded. Like, I was mind blown that once it worked, by the way, it's like, okay, let's double down. Like,
who was there? Who was responding to you? Who was in that space? And why were you connecting with them?
Yeah. So just small business owners looking for answers that they looked at the news on Monday, and then on Tuesday, they're on the phone with their accountant. The accountant can't take the call because there's 1,000 of them calling the one accountant, right? And this is where I think the one-man band accounting firm died. Yeah. There's just so much compliance that one accountant cannot keep up with the amount of stuff that's out there. So who were they? Young service-based business owners was the honest truth. A lot of people in that era started businesses. They say that crisis, like Facebook was started in 2008, a lot of businesses were started. COVID, a lot of businesses started. People who couldn't get a hold of their current accountant that were looking for answers, service-based business owners who thought, I've lost my job I've got time to do a side hustle, I've got time to put my effort into something else, lots of that. And then obviously, just like every accountant loves a good tradie, so quite a few tradies who I sort of went to high school with that were perfecting their trade and were coming on that journey at that time. But a lot of small startup businesses and the medium-sized businesses were literally the ones that just couldn't get a hold of their accountant and were looking for advice and help, and they were on socials.
They were the ones. And they formed your client base early, and then that inevitably led into us reconnecting. So from my perspective, I've seen you in the firm as an employee who's a good employee, who is a chartered accountant and dutiful and gets the job done. And I didn't understand at the time, something I came to understand later about you, which is how much you like looking for new ideas and finding what's happening and what's trending and what's new, and then like innovating. But what was happening in your business and in your mindset where you thought, I know you touched on this briefly, you said the one-man band model died a little bit, so maybe, you could speak to that, but what is it that made you reconnect with Latitude? And when the proposition of merger came up and we started talking, what made that a potentially attractive proposition for you?
For sure. So So I start the business with $0 in sales, literally from scratch, and then I build up a decent client ledger, right? And so in that journey, there's two parts of the business: the people, and then the systems and processes as well. And so the people I could find, but it was very difficult with 3.5% unemployment and not too many people switching jobs. So acquiring staff was very difficult. Also at that time, you get used to a certain income lifestyle, and then you have to realize that in your first 10 years, people think in my first 2 years I make my salary back and then I can just cruise from there, but it's not really. You have to invest that money back into the business. You have to keep growing and keep scaling and getting the systems and processes and the people in place. So I solved the people, I solved the systems and processes, but I didn't have someone next to me that I could bounce ideas off, whether it was technical, whether it was soft skill. I didn't have the support of someone who was operationally very sound. So I'm very much more on the creative end. And like you said, always wanting to innovate, always wanting to push the envelope, always thinking about what's my client feeling, what extra value can I add in their specific space, or how else can I add value. But I needed the grounding, and I needed I sort of got the value of I was working ridiculous hours all the time. I needed systems, I needed processes, and I needed to take it to the next level. We were also going through some family changes at the time, so my time was being soaked up, and then I needed the next move. Whether I had done that, whether I would then do that myself or align myself with people who who had already done that and had been through that process. That's sort of where the merger came into call. So we had I don't know if you remember, but prior to merging, a year before that, we had a meeting, and we were talking about, I remember the conversation, it was finders, minders, grinders. And it's I think Wise Mentoring do this, where in the accounting firm, most businesses is a finder, someone who finds the work, someone who minds the work, so the manager or the whatever, to manage the workflow and manage the end-to-end process. And then there's a grinder, being the junior, the one who's putting the hard yards in and doing all the groundwork. And then you asked me, what do you see yourself as? And I'm like, look, I'm a finder. I'm a finder minder. I know how to get clients. I know how to have good relationships, and I have enough empathy to know what my client's going through, so I can serve them pretty well. And so that conversation happens. I leave it, and I think, well, maybe one day we'll see how we go. I start to get to the point where I need the systems and the processes and the people to really scale. And then I come back and see what you had done with Latitude Accountants. And so when I left Latitude, we talk about this in our podcast, when I left Latitude Accountants, it was a bunch of people doing their best to service their client base in the best manner possible. When I came back, it was a well-oiled machine. It was systems, processes, departments, people like HR, marketing, like everything was polished. It was a accounting firm as I knew it. And so
that's it.
That was
I would
very
interrupt you to say probably
yeah.
everything was well-oiled and running, like you said, except for the marketing,
yeah.
which was the allure from our end. Is
Yeah.
when we saw that you went out and you brought a piece of the puzzle which sort of completes like the full spectrum of business, like one of the four foundational pillars of the business, the marketing element, and you bring ideas. And where in our discussions, you'd say, well, you're struggling with the one-man band model. But not just you. Every single boomer accountant is approaching an age where they're thinking of retirement. When COVID hit and all the grants came through and all the changes with single-touch payroll, director IDs, ATO getting serious about DPNs and director obligations, all these things hit in a 3-4 year period. A lot of one-man band or suburban accountants, especially the ones approaching retirement, said, that's enough for me, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I felt like our relationship it would be perfect, and the marriage of businesses would be great, because what you brought in the ideas and in the marketing scope, not to say that in the other areas you weren't performing well, but what you loved from our side was the organisation, the technical expertise, and that we'd built an accounting firm that could support sort of your skill set and your client base and what you brought to the table. So, I would agree with you on that, and definitely I think it's one of the reasons why this works.
For sure.
In terms of you being the ideas man, I wanted to read this. You're the ideas man, and you're always in books, and you're always, watching podcasts. You're telling me about the latest thing that came out. Like, you're very in tune with what's happening out there. When I walk into your office, there's a quote on the wall, which you've decided to put up there. It's, "Dreams without goals are just dreams, and ultimately they fuel disappointment. On the road to achieving your dreams, you must apply discipline, but more importantly, consistency, because without commitment, you'll never start, but without consistency, you'll never finish." Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
So this quote's on your wall.
100%.
You chose to put it on the wall. What's it mean to you? Why is it up there?
For sure. So this, as I was picking, there was a few that were going to make the wall. Obviously, I have to, come up with a bunch of options, and then
1,000 options and narrow it down.
John Sardi will pick one, and we'll go, we'll go with it. So, as you think you are, which is an old Chinese proverb, was going to be on there. There was another quote about no one knowing anything and just trying something and seeing what happens. But this quote is the one that really spoke to me, in that it's long enough to encapsulate everything I think about life. Dreams without goals are just dreams. So even if you have the grandest of ideas, without you taking action, setting timelines, giving yourself deadlines, and really going after something, you're just going to be in the same place you were. Like the New Year's resolutions, December, the same person in December is going to be the same person in January. As accountants, we don't believe in calendar year financial. Absolutely. It's only financial year's a new year. So if you want to wish me a new year, 30 June,
1st of July.
It's the time to do it. But so dreams without goals are just dreams. So really setting in goals and having hard things. Like I said, when I wrote my ATAR on my desk, that moved me. Whenever I have everything we do, we write down. If you look everywhere, it's very much a visualization of who we want to be, showing our vision, showing our purpose, showing our goals. So dreams without goals are just dreams. On the way to your dreams, it talks about consistency and applied effort. So everything that's that mindset growing up, where you have to work for it. No one's going to give you all your dreams on a silver platter. Go after it. Stay consistent.
Is that why you love small business? Is that why? Because if there's anyone in our office, I'll say two things to that. One, definitely the discipline and consistency. I see that when I look around, it's very obvious. One of the first cars in, last cars out every night is yours. I see the consistency, the dedication, the hard work, and then the other thing. Anyone I'm hearing anyone speak about small business or working for things, capitalism, like, is that? I feel like that's your aura. That's your thing, right? 100%. It's why do you love capitalism? Why do you love small business? Yeah. Like, is that all tied together?
1,000,000% over. So, what small business means to me, and what I think what I've seen small business do for many others, is it's that bridge between you're working class, you're trying to make something of yourself, to I have a business that can now support my family, that can help us achieve our wildest dreams. Yes. So, literally, it's very much dreams focused, but the business is the tool to help you, give you an outlet for your creative and for who you want to be as a person. So I love the small business owner. There's a few reasons for that. Number one, they have skin in the game. They've got their life depends on the success or failure of their small business to some degree. As you grow, you get out of that phase, but they have skin in the game. They took the risk. They're the ones that hire. So they're the ones that employ and give people other jobs. I always say the line is they sacrifice their own career to create a career for someone else. I think it's very self-sacrificial to be a business owner. A lot of people paint the business owner as the greedy capitalist, but it's really not. They're giving back to the community. There's not a single business on this planet that did not add more value than it took from someone. So that is the whole idea of business: add value and give someone a solution to their problems, and naturally money and profits will flow after that. So a business takes care of its people, takes care of its founder and their family, and also creates community. So you'll think about your local cafe, your local barber that you go to, anyone that adds vibrance and charm, the events that's sponsored by the small business. That's all small business. And I love that. And so those three things sort of in a nutshell, that's why I call them the hero, by the way, they are the hero because they do all these things and they're giving back.
You just painted a picture for me about when you go into a small business like a local barbershop and there's a community there, there's a vibe. You go into the shop, the guy greets you by name, you know the process. There might not even be a ticket. You might just know you have to sit.
Yeah.
Then naturally the people know who's next.
Yeah.
Even if it's not completely like ticketed, oh, it's my turn, or there might be a bit of like you're not sure, and then one guy go, oh, you're next. No, it's fine. You're next. You get up. You sit. He'll know what you want. He might start cutting your hair before you even ask you a question because he knows what you want. Yeah. Comes to the end, we haven't even agreed on a price. Yeah, how much was it?
Whatever.
Oh, it's $45. Here's $50.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. You guys want a coffee or anything? No, all good. All right, I'll see you next week. Yeah. Compare that to walking in to Service New South Wales when you need to renew your license. You walk into the environment, it's dull.
Yeah.
I hate going to Service New South Wales. You walk in, you take a ticket, you push a button, you sit, no one's talking to anyone, no one's polite, no one knows your name. The contrast is huge. You might think, oh, they're so efficient because they get through 10 times as many customers as the barbershop or whatever, or there might be some redeemable attributes. Yeah. But if I live my life with every interaction, like going to Service New South Wales or one of these corporate institutions versus going to your barbershop, what a way to live, right?
Yeah.
So I've never actually thought about that.
Yeah.
I've never thought about what it does,
Culture.
The way you feel, and I think that's the empathy thing you talk about. It's you can feel what it's like to be a customer or working in one of these businesses where it's people and the feeling's different to like one of these big corporates. But to push back on you, what about the capitalist system, right? It's very much it rewards effort and there is all those positive things. What do you say to those people who feel like they're lacking in natural ability or talent or energy or ability to start their own small business and they find themselves at a disadvantage? How do those people then fit into your, if Jacob Fahmy was president for a day, where do they benefit from that somewhat like immigrant work ethic, cutthroat mentality of, you got to have skin in the game? What about those that can't?
It's a great question. There's a couple of answers I'll have here. Number one, the current CEO of Apple was the entrepreneur prior to the after the entrepreneur. So the idea that you have to be the business owner to be successful or to make money or to do any of these things is it's not entirely correct. So often the best employees and the most well-paid, honestly, even beyond the business owner sometimes, and you just don't know it, the most well-paid people in the organization are the best employees. And the employees who treat the business like it's their own and who might not necessarily have the risk appetite to go after something and to risk it all, or might not just, some people just don't want to start businesses. That's fine. 100%. I never really wanted to start a business. I just wanted to make something of myself. So you don't have to be the business owner. You can be an intrapreneur, what they call an intrapreneur, where you can be that in-house just value-adding
So you're saying intrapreneur as opposed to entrepreneur?
Correct.
So explain that to me. I haven't heard 100%. That before.
Yeah, so it's like the Steve Wozniak, or it's like the it's the guy behind the scenes who or the guy or girl behind the scenes who the entrepreneurs out there creating and running the business and running the operations. But the intrapreneur is the beast inside the organization who's behind the scenes really making everything happen and sort of stitching everything together and making sure and coming up with the ideas. And what about this? What about if we do that differently? What about if we improve here? Our customers are saying this. Can we address their needs in this way? Whatever. And like you could, for example, Facebook, you might not be the Mark Zuckerberg, but you may have bought a small parcel of shares at that upfront moment. Just someone inside that organization who adds so much value that you just have to pay them more. We always talk about this where the more value you add, the more money you will make, full stop. If you want to learn how to make more money, add more value. Money will come to you.
So you don't believe there's these greedy, self-interested capitalist overlords that try to extract maximum value out of every worker for the least possible amount of reward? So that's not your view of the world. So like if there was an opposing view which said even if the worker creates extra value, then the greedy overlord, business owner, capitalist is going to steal all that value from them and keep it for themselves. You think that naturally, what is it? What's the mechanism that would make that employee or that person be rewarded for their effort?
100%. So it's a lot of it is free market and competition as well. So yes, in a short term, I'm not naive to the fact that there may be some business owners who aren't rewarding their staff, but you know what those staff do? They go to other business owners who will reward them. Okay. As long as we have a healthy level of competition, as long as it's not crony capitalism where we're just saving businesses and not letting people compete on a fair playing field, or we're creating monopolies and things like that. As long as everyone has the free will and the free market to compete in and have the choice, it's freedom as well. It's that I don't want an employee to feel like they're stuck at a job if they don't like that job. I want them to be able to have a switching cost of, okay, what about this organization? Maybe that's a better fit for me. Maybe I can add more value in this role. Maybe I can add more value in that role. I'm not naive, and I don't think capitalism is the be-all and end-all, and there's one perfect system. Nothing's perfect. The sooner we realize nothing is perfect in life, the more accepting we'll be of different scenarios and outcomes and things like that. So I'm not naive to the person who, maybe doesn't have means to leave their job. Some people have to stay in their job because they've got kids they need to feed, or they've got a mortgage they have to pay. I'm not naive to that. But the only thing I can say is that if we constantly improve ourselves, if we constantly invest in ourselves, I have a $14 a month, $15 a month Audible subscription, and I get so much value by reading other people's stories, by being inspired by other people, by learning firsthand. You don't need gone are the days, as shocking as it is, you don't need a $30,000 to $50,000 business or laws degree, whatever you do to get into the job. But there are other outlets in life where you don't need to spend preposterous amounts of money to add value. Just improve. Go in there every day with a healthy attitude of improve, read as many books as possible, and find a way to compete and offer value. And I find it difficult that you would not be a better person in a year's time, and you would not be better remunerated in a year's time. Yeah. All right. That would be my answer.
So you're obviously a bigot who hates all people who aren't in small business. All
right. Yeah. I hope it didn't come across like that.
No, I appreciate what you're saying, and the fact that you threw out free market as the natural alternative to, like, the mechanism by which these people are not exploited. That's something that I believe as well, and by and large, just why we live in a somewhat capitalistic country, and it tends to work better than most of the other systems than we see, in other parts of the world. So I am also an advocate and proponent, but I know you're the king advocate and proponent, of that. I want to change gears a little bit, and I want to put you on the spot.
Sure.
All right. And I'm very sorry if this hurts your feelings, because I know you don't like to go too deep into some of these issues, but I have to bring it up because it's been something that's of serious concern for me for many years. I, John Sardi, grew up in Greenacre, a suburb in Canterbury, Bankstown in Sydney, and therefore I go for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs in the NRL. You, my friend, made it very clear, grew up in Mount Druitt, so naturally I would think would either go for, I'd imagine, Parramatta, Eels, Penrith.
Yeah.
Brisbane Broncos, please explain.
Absolutely, I'd love to. As with all my life's decision, there is some rationale and story behind it. 1998, I was 6 years old, okay? And majority of my family, I would say, go for the Bulldogs. But there's a couple of, growing up in the area, there's a couple of my family members that go for the Broncos. I have recently actually reached out to them and said, why did you pick the Broncos? Because that influenced my decision to pick the Broncos, right? I read the Wayne Bennett book recently, got inspired, got readjusted back with the Broncos, went to the grand final last year, still mourning it. But anyway, in 98, the Broncos versed the Bulldogs in the grand final. I was 6 years old, right? Yep. And I said, that's it. Whoever wins this game, this is the be-all and end-all decider. What better way? Half my family's Bulldogs, half my family's Broncos. The winner of this grand final is the team I'm going to choose, and I'm pretty loyal when I make a decision. So the Broncos win. One of the best teams of all time. That era of the Broncos was just ridiculous. So I chose to support the Broncos.
You're being loyal to your 6-year-old self. The decision you made at 6 years old. Amazing.
Yeah. So I picked the Broncos. I go with it. Okay. Now, my cousin I asked recently, bro, why did you pick the Broncos? Like, we love them now, but how did we get into that? And he goes, you want to know the truth? Everyone else wanted to support the Bulldogs, and we hated the Bulldogs. So we wanted to find the furthest team away from the Bulldogs. And the Brisbane team just entered the comp.
Dirty dogs.
Furthest, Melbourne went there. Yeah, Melbourne went there. So they said, we're going to support the Brisbane Broncos as a big FU to the
Bulldogs fans, just out of spite.
That's the story.
My goodness.
So, yeah.
Oh, man, that takes, that clears it up for me.
Yeah,
I still don't agree. we liked you, like, we thought you were so nice. We brought you back twice to Latitude Accountants, and I think there needs to be a conversion of with the rugby league gods. You know what I mean?
So
down
funny.
the track.
I have converted from. I'll be honest. I have converted from supporting the Maroons to supporting the Blues because state of origin's different. Club teams, you can pick your team.
Absolutely.
Origin, it's like it's in the name, right?
Yeah.
When I was young, I thought Origin, whatever, orange, same. Origin, orange, same, different. Didn't really realize what the word meant.
Yeah.
And then when I realized what the word meant, I said, you know what? I was born in New South Wales. This is my home state. After Darren Lockyer retired, I couldn't go against him. But after he retired, I started supporting the Blues. So that's as close, I think.
Hey, listen, man, that's a bit of repentance. I'll take that. That shows that you've got a clear mind and you can progress and change and pivot when you need to. So I appreciate that. Jacob Fahmy, please tell me where we can find you on your socials.
I'd love to.
Where can everyone come and learn more about you,
Absolutely. Mate? So obviously Instagram, I've changed it from Advisor Group. It's now Jacob Fahmy. So just search Jacob Fahmy with a H in there, F for Fred, A-H, M for Mary, Y is the way you would spell it. And then obviously on the Latitude Accountants website, so latitudeaccountants.com.au. And now on this podcast. So we're going to put out a ton of content, and just Google my name and either hit us up on the Latitude website or on my Instagram. You can shoot me a DM. I'm always keen to hear and connect some more stories.
All right. Well, thanks for watching another episode of the Lat Chat podcast. Please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you. Thanks, champion. That was great.